Please make your way to your seats. The program is about to begin. The AV Club put out an article that said Tig Notaro technically more popular than Kiss. I remember reflecting on me as a kid being a fan of Kiss. I never would have imagined that I would have sold more albums than Kiss. That was like a thrill for me. I mean, no offense to Kiss. I want them to do well. When I dropped out of high school, sorry, I don't know what's going on with my nose. I hope we keep that in.
Take two.
People said that I would regret it. Not at all. I wish I had dropped out sooner.
Tig Notaro.
Good evening. Hello. I have cancer. How are you? Hi, how are you? Is everybody having a good time? I have cancer. How are you? It's a good time. Diagnosed with cancer. I remember just being so scared to open with that line, but also it was exhilarating. My recording at Largo is called Live because I had 3 things in 4 months that could have killed me: pneumonia, C. diff, cancer, and then my mother died. So many live albums are called Live. You know, Tig Notaro Live is what people would think it is. And it just amused me to have to correct people all the time. They're like, no, it's actually Live. The first time I thought I was funny in elementary school, somebody handed me their bag of Fritos, and the bag was upside down. And I remember saying to them that I didn't want to eat the Fritos because now they're upside down. I thought that was hilarious to think about how it obviously didn't matter. I just thought, poof, I'm onto something here. Somebody over here just keeps going, oh, I think she might really have cancer. Who's taking this really bad? Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. It might not be okay, but I'm just saying. Before the show, I met with doctors and they told me it was bilateral breast cancer and that the tumor on the left-hand side was invasive and they wouldn't know until surgery if it had spread or not. I felt compelled to go on stage. I love stand-up so much. I thought this might be my last time that I perform. There was no way I was going to be able to do a regular stand-up show. I thought it might be awkward. I had no idea how the audience was going to react. After I got diagnosed, Sir, this should not tickle you so much. I'm not that happy and comfortable. It was like no other show I've ever done. This person's crying, that person's laughing, this person is just stunned. It wasn't a million laughs per second. It was just raw. It took me a month and a half before I said, I'll release it, because I was scared maybe it's just a time and place moment, and if it's released, people won't understand. I started to think maybe it could help people, and maybe I could put my fears and concerns aside. I just feel lucky that people were touched.
You had a double mastectomy, and how are you? No one does that. Except you.
It's not that was my big breakthrough, and now I'm just going to talk about the heavy stuff. There's a way to make the heavy stuff silly, and then there's a way to just do silly stuff. I feel like maybe some of you aren't into it. That doesn't offend me.
If you're not, raise your hand. I'm not. If you want me to stop a couple of you, maybe it's because you haven't heard it enough. With comedy, you shouldn't create boundaries like, oh, I can't do that. I'm the one-liner comedian. I can't do that. I'm a prop comedian. I can't do that. I'm a storyteller. As a person or a comedian, you should do what feels right. With humor, the equation is tragedy plus time equals comedy. I am just at tragedy. I really can't believe I made it through that. I look back on myself during that time and think, yeah, you handled that pretty well. Gosh, look at you.
Please welcome Grace Kuhlenschmidt and Tig Notaro.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes? Tig,
Can you
wanna
hear
test your
me?
mic? Great. So earlier they had the amazing Piper Pursley, 11 years old. So now they have 12-year-old Tig and I.
That's right, I just turned 12.
Yeah, it's such a great year. Right?
Ah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I thought that was our cake.
All right, Tig. Well, let's get right into it.
Yep.
So before comedy,
Yeah.
you were working in band management under Tig Nation Promotions. Such a good name,
Out of business.
but a good name.
Okay.
And then you first tried stand-up in LA in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
So my first question is, if you remember maybe that first time doing stand-up, maybe those first few times,
Yeah.
did it come naturally for you? Was it easy? Were you scared? Were you having fun?
All of those things, but mainly I thought I was killing it.
Totally.
And I couldn't believe how good I was out of the gate. I was truly blown away by myself. And that was the first time I went on stage. I was like, wow, I guess I'm just a natural. And then the second time I signed up for a stand-up competition, and halfway through the set, I was getting no laughs, and I ran off stage. And my friend Derek drove me back. It actually was in Orange County. And we drove back to Los Angeles, and he laughed at me the entire way home.
Wow. So you peaked in the first night.
That's right.
Yeah, not a lot of comics can say that.
No, they can't. Yeah. But I am here now.
Absolutely.
So
At the Makers Convention.
at age 12.
A lot of your comedy focuses, maybe what you're most generally known for, focuses on what some people would consider private matters. You call it personal comedy, such as your breast cancer diagnosis, as well as you and your wife's pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Was that, I mean, we just saw a clip of it. It's so funny. But was that an active decision you made? It seemed like it was. Was it like hard for you to do? Did it seem therapeutic at the time?
It was definitely an active decision because I had, within 4 months, I had pneumonia. I had the intestinal disease, C. diff, invasive cancer. My mother tripped, hit her head, died. And my girlfriend and I broke up. Mm-hmm. Those 5 things in 4 months. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do my regular monthly show because I'm in a very weird, bad place. And I had called the owner of Largo in Los Angeles, and I said, I just can't do my set. And he said, let's just keep it on the books, and you can decide the minute before if you want to go on. And I was like, this guy's nuts. And but as it was inching towards the day, I thought, I love doing stand-up so much that I had seen how health and life quickly slips away. And I wanted to do it one more time because I was scared that I could die. And so I just wanted to do it. And so I went on stage, and many people told me not to do it because they were like, "You're in such a fragile space. Why put yourself through it?" And
Were those other comedians or friends of yours?
friends that were comedians.
Yeah.
That were like looking
Comedians
out.
can be friends.
Yeah. And can be decent people looking out for your.
Right.
But anyway, I don't know if I answered your question.
I think you did. It was semi-therapeutic for you.
It was definitely therapeutic.
Yeah.
That was the other part. It was so therapeutic. And before that show, I had never shared much personal information about myself.
Right.
And I always just kind of kept it very observational about the world around me. And I was really at a place where I felt like I had lost everything,
Right.
even though there's obviously always more to lose.
Of course.
But it felt like I had truly lost everything in 4 months. And so when I went on stage, I just thought, I'm going to share this. And the audience was just so there with me.
Right.
And it just changed my life, and it changed how I do stand-up.
That's so special. I mean, just plainly put, watching those clips is very inspiring.
Well,
and in
thanks.
terms of the risks that you've taken in comedy, how important does that feel to you personally and also professionally? Like, do you credit a lot of your career to it?
Well, it's really interesting because when I told the audience that I had cancer and everything else that was going on in my life, everybody told me that was such a risk, and it felt like a risk. I was so nervous, and right before I did the show, is when I thought of my opening line of "Hello, good evening, I have cancer," and it made me laugh so hard, like maniacally. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to walk out and deliver it like, are there any birthdays here tonight?" And then I was like, oh God, I was worried I was going to hurt people's feelings that maybe had dealt with cancer and knew somebody with cancer.
Sure.
And then I was like, oh wait, I have cancer, so this is my thing, But I just kind of recently realized that my life in general, just personally, I was a risk taker. Not always good
Right.
or positive. In fact, mostly terrible ideas that I did. And I can't believe I'm here. But I think that once I found stand-up, my life clicked into place. And it really saved my life because I was flailing so much. I was a dropout, a failure. Just being gay and I didn't know what I was doing, or I just didn't have really great direction. And getting into stand-up, I locked in, and then I was able to shift that risk into what I was doing on stage. And then, I did my HBO special with my shirt off, exposing my double mastectomy scars. And everybody was like, I wouldn't do that. It's going to seem like you're, doing it for attention. And I was like, I am. I would like to talk more about this.
Yeah, always doing it for the male gaze.
Yeah, for the male gaze. But I definitely, it was a stunt, but I also wanted to do it with a sense of humor, and that's why I did it, and took my shirt off and just talked about flying in an airplane and never mentioned my shirt coming off.
Right.
Yeah, I just, every time I've jumped off of a place, whether it's in my personal life or in comedy, it feels so much better to make that leap than to be standing
Right.
in that
Right.
safe place.
Yeah.
And more times than not, I've landed on the other side.
Very cool.
So
Now you're in these past few years where you've really been taking off is in the podcast space. You have 2 podcasts.
wait, that's where I've really been taking off?
This
Nobody's
right here.
mentioned that.
You can turn this right here to a podcast, Tig. You have 2 podcasts right now, Don't Ask Tig, with you and a new guest every week. You've had on people from Phoebe Bridgers to Lena Waithe to David Sedaris. You also have Tig and Cheryl, which is with you and the amazing Cheryl Hines from Curb Your Enthusiasm, where you discuss documentaries.
Barely.
Yeah, which is the perfect way for a podcast to be. What do you like about podcasts? Why are you doing them? Honestly, yeah.
Tig, why are you doing this?
We're all wondering.
That's why we all met here today.
It's an intervention.
It's, I don't know, it feels, I started doing podcasting in the early days of podcasting, and then my original one lasted like 5 years, and it does feel like the Wild West, because you can say and do whatever you want for the most part, as long as you're not being hateful.
Right.
I mean, people still do that, but it's not my focus. And so there's an ease to being at home and working, and I got back into it like everybody else alive during the pandemic, and it's fun to do my advice show and have a new guest, and usually it's a friend that I know, a celebrity, and it's fun to connect with them. And then Cheryl and I are friends of like 15 years, and we're just ridiculous together, and we both enjoy documentaries, so every week we talk about a new documentary, and barely talk about a documentary. We definitely go off the rails a bit, but it's a fun way to express myself and use my humor.
Right.
Without having to go on the road or have the pressure of writing new material, even though I'm also always doing that.
Sure.
It's nice to have that other outlet.
Maybe feels kind of low stakes, but high reward in the sense
Well,
that you're with a friend.
High stakes now that I know it's the big thing to my
It's your biggest thing.
It's my biggest accomplishment.
Right.
So yeah, pressure's on.
You are gay, as am I.
Well, I'm dabbling.
Of course. That's the quote of the day. I'm dabbling.
I've been dabbling for decades. I'm not sold on it.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Need some more convincing.
Yeah, I have a wife.
What do we get financially out of being gay? I can say generally in the media right now, we have more LGBTQ representation. Mm-hmm. Generally, we have better LGBTQ representation. Wow, say that 5 times fast. LGBTQ representation.
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, thanks. Is there a place in media you'd like to see more representation? Could be TV, film, behind the camera.
You know what? Yeah, it's behind the camera.
Yeah.
Because I think people put so much focus on, the actor or director has to be whatever, fill in
right.
whatever blank. And then I've been on productions, some of my own, and it's I was thinking about this today, and so it's interesting, it's one of your questions. It's a shame that I carry, that I had that blind spot, that I've tried to have representation in what I do, and I feel like I, as well as other people that I've worked with, ignored the behind the scenes.
Right.
And I think that it's foolish to think that the most important person or people are the stars,
Absolutely.
the directors, the writers. You cannot do any of those parts, positions, jobs without
Yeah.
the camera operator, without the sound person.
More gay gaffers.
Yeah, got to get some gay gaffers out there. But yeah, I think that everybody could do way better all around, but really behind the scenes
Yeah.
it's not.
I agree. I feel like the dialogue around LGBTQ representation is almost solely about the actors, and it really is. We just need some more sprinkling throughout every single part of TV, film.
Absolutely. And every other sort of
Of course.
area of inclusion and part of the process of making anything.
Right.
Makers.
Makers.
We're makers.
In terms of the future, that's what a lot of this amazing convention is about. Where do you see comedy going? Do you see it getting riskier, safer, for better or for good? Do you see it getting
Comedy
straighter
in
or
general?
gayer? Yeah, comedy in general.
I
Or however, or you can answer however you want.
No, I honestly don't know where I see comedy going. I think it's very similar to the world and the
Right.
country right now because it's so divided. I think the comedy world is very divided. I think entertainment is divided. And it's really unfortunate. And it used to be the comedy scene used to be, like I said, a place that saved my life. And now it's a place where I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you saying?
Yeah.
Why are you, it's so nice when you see people learn and grow and change. And then it's so confusing when you see people refuse to and really dig their heels in.
Right.
And so I really don't know. I don't know where it's going. Where do you think it's going?
I mean, I hope that it's becoming, I guess from my perspective, riskier and gayer. But yeah, I think that a lot of comedians lose focus sometimes on why we do this. And
Yeah.
that's not to say, like, obviously, you are able to talk about so much personal comedy, and like we can talk about politics in a way that can also still make us laugh and give us release. But sometimes I think it can get misconstrued. But I hope that, like, I'm scrolling through Netflix, Hulu, and just trying to find a single rom-com. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's where we're different.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you, kind of going off of what we were just talking about, but if you do have any advice for up-and-coming comedians, up-and-coming actors, writers, if there's anything, like, where you see the world of comedy right now, where would you want to push yourself? Like, for example, my career has really only happened, like, through being online in the past few years. Do you have a perspective on that? Do you think, stand-up is the way to go? What do you think?
Stand-up is the way to go. And I want to encourage you all to get out there and do it.
Yeah, Tig's going to have an open mic right after this, so 5 minutes everyone gets.
Well, as far as like pursuing whatever you're interested in, I feel like you have to be so focused. And when I started doing the road in earlier years, I remember one of the club owners came up to me and she said, okay, so I've told all of the female comedians locally to come in, ask you questions in between the early and late show. And I was just trying to like catch my breath. I was like, oh gosh, okay. And so I sat down and I remember this one woman said, I do stand up Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Does that seem like enough? And I was like, if you're planning a schedule, then this is not your passion.
Yeah.
You have to be getting up every day, going, thinking about, you're not like, okay, I hit my 8 p.m. spot on stage. I did this, I did that. It's like, oh my God, I can't, nobody would get in your way. And that is, if you were asking for advice, I just feel like if you're not all in,
Right.
I don't know what to say. And as far as internet, comedy or stars coming out of the internet, I've heard people say, I remember you used to have to save money, come out to Hollywood, and those are real stars, and these people are just at their home, and I'm like, who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Like, what if the person can't save the money? What if they can't make it out to Hollywood? You're going to discredit somebody because they're in their bedroom and they're uploading something and they're a real talent? I don't understand that idea. It's like Justin Bieber.
Famous comedian.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like, whatever you're doing out of your bedroom and putting it online, or Bo Burnham, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What are people talking? I don't have any. I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm not great talking around the topic of internet stuff because I try to not spend too much time in that world, but I understand and appreciate it and respect what anybody is doing. And I don't feel, not what anyone is doing, but I do feel like there's so much talent out there. And however you make your way, I'm behind it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, Tig, thanks so much for being here. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, makers.
Thank you,
And
makers.
everyone enjoy the rest of your day.
Are our mics on still?
They must be off, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
We're an organization that's really leaning in right now. And we're leaning in a way that feels so supportive and real and authentic. I'm sure there's a moment that we all recognize, and we saw the wheels of social injustice become